Hey everybody, up and Adam. Today we're going to do a little calibration on a Waratah 425. I know some contractors out there like to know a little more about the head. I've had some contact about maybe people that run log mags want to know how I like the Waratah. I also ran log mags for years. Um, so anyway, this is basic calibration on a Waratah, and to me, I think it's so easy compared to most of the other heads. Uh, so basically, the first thing I did was I found a nice tree, good sized tree, has one log, two studs, and a pulp. And I'll show you that in a second. I also found a tree in that category where I didn't have to do any bucking, so I didn't have any rot in it or anything. I just cut the tree, fed out the product, and once they're laid on the ground, this is where I stop. Now I have to go into the computer. So as you can see down there, I have one log, 16-foot log, and I have two studs. Looks like one's probably a 9-foot and one's a 8-foot, and then I have a stick of pulp. Now, the calibration on the Waratah runs fairly simple. You just go down into your screen. I'll brighten the screen up a little bit so you don't get the flash. And then you double click over here where the diameter is, and it comes up like this. Now I'm going to show you. It's in standard length, so 7 feet 0.6 inches, I should say, 7.6 inches in diameter, 16 foot 4 inches. What I like to do is I like to have mine on metric when I'm doing calibration for a little finer tune. So I'm going to cancel out of this. I'm going to go up here to system configuration, customization, down to units, and it comes up metric. And then I just go back to my blue arrow to go back to my main screen. So now it's in metric. So now you'll see my links, all that are in metric length. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those links, and that tells me that that log, that 16-foot log, should be 498 centimeters long and 194 millimeters at the top. So that's each of the tops that are written there. So I basically have to measure the length and the top. So now we're going to go down to our products. So down here, you can see that I wrote down my numbers. That's my lengths and my diameters that I have here. I just wrote them down on a piece of paper towel. So the first one says 498 and 194. So we're going to come over to our tree. Measure the length. If it's not 498, it is 495. So it's out a little bit in length. So I'll write that down. So 495, and the diameter is outside bark around 205. So 205 we'll write down there. So the next one, I've already got them written down ahead of time, but the next one is 276 and 175. So the next tree that came out of the head would be this one. It is a little shy. It should be a little shy because the other one is 273. And about 180, 182 on average. The next one is 317 and 132. So this is the next one that came out of the head. Come back to here. It should be a little short, so 314 and a half. We'll call that 315. And let me see. About 133. It's always good to take an average. 132, 133. And the last one is 267 and 86. So you'll see, I think the length is 265. And about 82, 83. around there somewhere. So now I take those back up. You'll see I've already written them down what they are here. I'm going to take them back up into my computer and I'll show you how to calibrate it. So here we are back at our main screen here. Now the big thing here is the lengths are okay to put in, but the diameter won't change more than 5 millimeters. If we have to, we'll go to another screen. So right now, my larger length is 194 and we measured out 205. So in order to change this, that's the largest diameter I have. Instead of just clicking here, I actually have to go back out to harvester head, calibration, measurements, I believe. Under my calibration, base diameter curve, right here. And what this will allow me is to pick out a point. I hit my edit and then calibrate section. So displayed, so what was on the screen was for 190, let's see, 194. I'm only doing it this way because my keyboard went dead. And it actually measured out to 205. So 205. And then I click OK. When I click OK, you're going to see this base curve move. So right there is where it calibrated. You can see the curve is a little bit out. So that one is calibrated to that. Now my next one, I'm going to edit another one. Calibrate section to, we have screen said 175. And it showed 185 on the real measurement. So I'm going back to 185. And this is the real time measurement. 185. Okay. Click OK again. You can see the base curve moved a little bit. Then I'm going to, the next one is fine. And then the next one, the last section was the pulpwood, showed 86. And measured 82. I don't want to jump back and forth on different screens just to do it. Okay. So then we click that, click OK. There. Now the calibration's finished. I would have to go back and check again another tree. But if I was to do it this way, I could come back here and I'll do this the length way. So the length of the first one was 498. This screen here, if you click on it, it'll bring 498 up. And the actual length was 495. So I can just drop it to 495. Click. The next one was 276 and it was 273. The 317 is 314. And 267 was 265. So those are all in there. Now, since I didn't do the diameters in this one, it's actually going to show me I don't have to do the calibration on the diameters. So I save it. See, it's telling me I need to calibrate the length. Over here, if my diameters were out enough, it would say calibrate diameters too. So I'm going to click on this to calibrate it and start calibration. That just shows me what it finds for a difference. It's going to show me that it's doing all of my different, for my diameters, which we didn't do for this screen. But that would change everything through these species. The length calibration will be the same for all these species. And just like that. So that head is calibrated now. I'll double check it after a dozen trees or more and we'll see how it goes. So for anybody out there that maybe doesn't understand what I just went through, most of the time the general public wouldn't even have any idea what I just went through. But the reason that we calibrate these heads, basically, there's two reasons. One is the mills have a spec that they want certain species cut to and things like that. So, like a fir tree and spruce would go to one mill that does logs and they take studwood. So our logs would maybe come down till the top is 6 inches in diameter, and then after 6 inches we turn them into studs, and that studwood's brought down to say 4.5 or 4.25, whatever the mill wants to use for cutting those studs out of that timber. And then after that it's turned into a stick of pulp, so it's sent to another mill to be ground up, stuff like that. So they have certain specs that they need to have for sawing out certain products for certain materials, and so we have to make sure that they match what the mill wants. The other thing is that I'm cutting a private piece of ground here, and if the landowner asked us to cut it, chances are it's because of money, usually, because that's what they want out of it. They don't want to cut trees just for sake of emptying the ground. So basically, if they're trying to get the most out of their ground, then they want to provide, they want us to cut the wood at the most efficient possibility of getting them the best bang for their buck. So if we take a bunch of wood that's, let's say, bigger and just turn it into pulpwood and go grind it, then they're actually losing money on their product that should be going to a studwood mill, which would be worth more than pulp is, and we would be wasting that and taking it to a pulp mill. Whereas if we took all the trees down to say 4.25 for studwood, and all of the pulpwood was below 4.25, that guarantees that they've got the best bang for their buck out of their trees. And then the other thing is to remember that we don't want to waste anything, because these trees, the ones I'm cutting, are 30-40 years old, I would say, and if it's planted, it'll be 40 more years before it grows to the point where they will harvest it again from this area. So yeah, now I guess you're probably wondering, well, how did the head measure all that stuff? Well, if you look at the top of the head, actually look at the structure of the head, you can see that the head has 2 wheels, feed rollers, on the outside. There's 2 inside ones, and this is basically 4-wheel drive. And then you have 4 knives, plus the one on top, right there. It's got a little branch on it. But that top knife there, those are delimbing knives. Well, if you look at the top of the head, you will see 2 dials on the outsides of where those knives, the pins are on those knives. And inside there's a sensor that knows when this knife is at a certain distance from 0, basically. It knows that whatever's inside of it for a tree should be this size of a diameter for that tree. So if I don't keep that calibrated, first of all, I have to keep it greased. Second of all, I could be on a float or anything where it's banging off of steel, anything like that. Or just over time, sometimes they go out. So we try to do it, first of the week. Yesterday was pouring rain, so I wasn't going to get too much into it yesterday. It doesn't really matter as long as you do it from time to time to make sure it's hitting on. But most of the time, if you're getting off a float or something like that, and you have metal to metal or something that could jar it, you always want to give it a shot just to double check to make sure everything's reading properly. Like I said, it's pretty simple. It takes 10 minutes to do the calibration, and then you just go. And these heads, the 425 heads, usually don't go out of calibration that easy. The first 415 head that I ran, we tried to keep calibrating it, and it wasn't out hardly ever. Maybe it was out twice a year. It was very accurate. I'm not sure what the difference is. This one here was just out a little bit, but I think this is probably 3rd or 4th time that I've done it since last October. So it's not a lot that it goes out. It's easy to just check because, like I said before, you just click on the screen, it shows you what the tree should be. Get out, double check it. If it's okay, you don't have to do anything. So yeah, so that's a calibration on the 425 HD Waratah. Hope I didn't complicate anything. And if you do have any questions, shoot me a message, anything like that. And yeah, so until next time, let's get at her.